recording real quick. What I'd like to find out real quick is how many of you actually have your Booj website set up? Actually have it set up. Okay, so we've got a few.
Me.
All right.
I do.
So let's do this then. If you don't have it set up and you would like to do that, what I'd like to do is there's a new tool that they have on there. Maybe it's not real new, but it's fairly new, where you can do what is called impersonate, right? So if you need help with that and you want help with it, either myself or Cody out of Harlingen should be able, if you allow impersonation, we would be able to go in real quick and set your website up. And the general website is not that hard to set up. The key thing to setting it up would be to have your information about brokerage services filled out, because we'll need that. That's actually the very first thing you need to put on there before you can publish it. So we'll need information about brokerage services. If you have a photo you want to use, we could upload that. We could do this together if you wanted to, but the impersonation allows us to do it whenever we have a chance, right? So we could jump in real quick and we could set it up and get it up, and then we can modify it from there. The other part of that is making sure that that's working for you. So when I say that's working for you, you might, those of you that have it set up, if you have something different than this, throw it in here, but you might want to get a domain name that fits you. And when I say that fits you, it could be whatever you want it to be. And there's different places you can go to get those. One of them I talk about in the new agent training is get.realtor. If you go to get.realtor, you can buy a domain name that has your name in it. In fact, the first year it's free. And then after that, it's like right now it's $39 a month. I mean, $39 a year to have that. Or you can do something.real estate. And both of those work. Or you can go to GoDaddy like we've done over the years and purchase something there. But having a domain name is really important, and setting that website up is even more important because you want that to work for you. And those do work. We just have to get it set up. And if you don't want to mess with it at all and you'd rather pay somebody to do it, there's a lady that will do that. I think our minimum charge is $500. One of the agents in Harlingen used her to set theirs up as well. But she'll actually add a lot more to it. If myself or Cody do it, we're talking about just setting it up, right? Just get it up and running so that you have something you can go to, something you can give out and use. So the reason I'm talking about it is because on there, you can actually go to your website, on the backside of your website, and plug in somebody's phone number and hit send, and it will send them your website. A link to your website, the app portion of the website, so that they can use your website to do searches and etc. And I think a lot of times agents forget about that. I don't know if anybody's using that or not, but that's available through your Booj so that you can get that running. Anybody have any questions there? No. All right. So again, if anybody wants to do that, needs help with it, just let me know, and we'll see what we can do about that. Like I said, there's a tool in there to make that work. A couple other little things, if I could. There is I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. Some of you have seen this because I used to show it all the time. It's popbyideas.com. Most of you, if you've been in the business a while, have seen it, especially if you've been in one of my classes, because I use this site myself on a regular basis. She is now, and somebody had sent me a message about this yesterday or the day before, but she's now doing Zoom classes. She has one scheduled for February the 10th at 10 o'clock. That's Pacific time, 10 o'clock Pacific time. Which means it's going to be later here. And you can go on, it's just popbyideas.com. If you go to popbyideas.com, that's her website. And you can get it from there. I'll throw that in the chat for you just in case. But you can go there and register for it. I will tell you that she is with EXP, and most of these people, just like Ricky Cruz now, most of them do this stuff because they're also trying to recruit for EXP. I don't care what company they're with. I just want to use their materials. I want to use what they have available. And she goes through this and explains how pop buys are supposed to work. So those pop buys are supposed to work. So those of you that's fairly new, that might be a good thing for you to learn how to do it. All right, everybody good there? Any questions, comments? Nope. All right. So let me stop that share real quick. If I can find the device, there we go. Yes. All right, then a couple other little notes for you real quick. Not necessarily little. Please remember that us talking to each other, and I'm talking about us being agents, talking to each other does not create a contract. A contract has to be written on the forms, right? Now, yes, in Texas, if a buyer says, was to tell a seller that they accept the counter, or if the seller was to tell the buyer they accept the offer. Yeah. In Texas, verbal contracts are supposed to be good, right? But the odds of the statute of fraud says that for us to do something about it, it needs to be in writing. So yes, they're good, but they're only worth what they're written on, which is nothing, right? So we want to make sure that we have everything in writing. If I submit an offer, if I, as a buyer's agent, submit an offer to Daniel, for example, and he comes back and says, hey, the seller's accepted your offer today, right now, and then at 3 o'clock this afternoon, he comes back and says, hey, I'm sorry, the seller decided to take another offer. I don't have anything in writing, I'm out. And I think most of you that's on here probably understand that. It's the ones that don't show up for training that don't get that. And the problem that we have is when Daniel tells me, hey, the seller's accepted your offer, I pick up the phone and call the buyer and say, hey, your offer's been accepted. Yay, we won. Only to find out later that it wasn't really accepted because I don't have anything in writing. I need it in writing. Everybody okay there? And that's actually happened a couple times this past week where we've had agents that have told their clients that their offer was accepted or the counter offer was accepted, but they don't have anything in writing. And if you don't have it in writing, it's going to be hard to do anything. Whether maybe cut somebody's tires or something like that. I don't know. Might be able to do that. And then one of the other things I wanted to share with you is, I don't know if some of you stay up with what's going on with Trek and some of the things they're tossing around. You can go to Trek's website and you can actually watch their meetings or listen into them or replay them. The Broker Lawyer Committee is always a real good one. And then just recently, I was listening to the Broker Responsibility meeting that they had on January the 14th. And some of the things they're talking about is interesting, especially for those of you that's been in the business a while and you plan on eventually becoming a broker. Pay attention to some of the stuff that's going on out there because it may take them a while before they put it into play. But when they're tossing it around, that means there's something there that needs to be worked on. So for example, one of the things they have right now in writing is a broker must respond to an agent, one of their agents. Broker's supposed to respond to one of their agents, to an agent calling about a transaction they have with one of their agents, or to a consumer within 2 days. Those are 2 calendar days. The broker, that's written up in Trek's rules for brokers, right? And in this one on January the 14th, They're actually talking about putting that in play for you and me, where if we don't respond within 2 days, we violated Trek's rules, right? Just so you guys have that. And there's some other things they're looking at with that. Like, for example, if you're a new agent, right now, Trek says that the broker must have somebody mentoring you or assisting you with your first transaction, which we've got that, right? But what they're actually looking at is they want to make it a requirement for 5 transactions. For your first 5 transactions, somebody has to help you with them. Which again, we have that covered, I believe, based on the way things are set up. But not all agencies have that. Not all brokerages have that. So I just tossed that out. And the reason for that is what? Because new agents get in the business, they think they know what needs to be done, they do it and find out it's wrong, which I can guarantee you that happens a lot. All right, anybody have any other questions or comments there? Nope. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you and share just a little bit more information, then we'll jump right into this script practice, and this should be fun. I wanted to share this with you. This is Edwards Abstract is having this vision board class. If you want to take it, it's on February the 10th. Ella's email address is on the flyer right there, so you can grab that. You just shoot her an email, let her know that you want to attend that. It's $10. It's 1 hour of CE. It's going to be at their location. They're in Mission. I'm sorry, it's going to be at the Chamber of Commerce. They're in Mission. It's $10 for 1 hour. If you're not familiar with the vision board, which most of us probably are, if you're not familiar with the vision board concept, it is designed to help you achieve your goals, long range goals, and being able to see yourself that way, whatever that is. And there's all kinds of stories about people and how that helps or has helped them, going all the way back to, I can't even remember his name. The Olympic swimmer, back when some of you were still in diapers. How he had taken a photo of an Olympian with all kinds of medals and put his face on it, and so he's seen that every day. So he's seen himself as a winner. He did this. He accomplished this, and he went in and became a Olympian with tons of medals. And there's all kinds of other stories with people doing that, where you visually see yourself accomplishing something. That's what the vision board's about, and it's with Edwards, so it should be worthwhile for us to attend that. I hope to be there myself. That's my plan as of this morning. But anybody have any questions on that one? The other thing is, yesterday in the chat over Mission, there was a comment about us needing an agent in San Antonio, and you guys have access to RE/MAX agents all over the world. If you'll just go to remax.net, and there's 2 referral systems in there, but you can go in there and you can find real estate agents all over the world. And I use that system myself with my wife and I, with referrals that we've sent out different places, doing it through the system. And you don't need if you go in and you use that system, you don't need the referral form. You don't need anything, because the system is built so that you can put all the information in that. But you just need to go to remax.net to do that. In San Antonio, what I wanted to share with you, because some of you had that in the chat yesterday, Kimberly Young is the team lead for the San Antonio team. And you can grab her information if you want it. But we now have offices, not only in Mission, but we have a Mission, Harlingen, Laguna Vista, Port Isabel, South Padre Island, Corpus Christi, Portland, Alice, San Antonio. We have offices. We are covering South Texas, right? RE/MAX Elite is, and this is one of the reasons why Norm is always busy. But the San Antonio team, Kim is the agent there, and she's been involved in the real estate business for over 40 years. So there's a lot of experience there, a lot of experience. But one of the other comments yesterday was that one of our own, I think Brian is the one that made that comment, Sarah Turkington, her mom is Norma Turkington from down at the island. She is one of the agents up at San Antonio. So I had thrown out Kim's name because she's the team lead, and she'll take care of them. She'll make sure they get where they need to be, and et cetera. Because as you all know, we all specialize in something a little different sometimes, or we just want to get the lead out there. Either one, but there's others up there as well. But that's the two that I would use all the time if I had somebody going to San Antonio. I have sent leads to San Antonio. I've had other agents ask me, hey, do you know somebody in San Antonio because you teach up there? And I usually give them to Kim and let her take it from there. All right, anybody have any questions there? But know that we have South Texas covered. If you need anything, all you have to do is ask. We'll make that work. So we haven't done this in a while, so let's hit this real quick. Contract bloopers. Take a look at this. And this is going to take you just a minute to understand where I'm going with this. But because some of you are doing really, really well with contracts, some of you are doing really well with contracts, it gives me a little extra time to actually nitpick, if you will, right? But the nitpicking will keep you out of hot water and keep us out of hot water. On this one, it says, and this is out of the mission office, by the way, I won't name the agent, but this was yesterday out of the mission office. Seller's disclosure notice. Buyer has received the notice. That's what's on the contract. Buyer has received the notice. Okay. So I go over here and I look at the effective date and the signatures, and you see the buyer signed it on January the 8th. You guys can see that, right? Buyer signed it on January the 8th. The effective date is the 10th. Seller signed it on the 10th. We have an effective date of the 10th. So then I go look at the seller's disclosure notice and look at the signature on there. The seller didn't even sign the seller's disclosure until January the 20th. How in the world did the buyer have it if the seller hadn't signed it until January the 20th? You guys follow that? And that's the little thing. That's, to me, that's we've had issues within the company, issues with seller's disclosure notices. So that's the little thing that could cause issues, because you said, not you personally, but someone said buyer has it, but in reality, they didn't. Or if they did, it must not have been signed, right? So everybody understand that one? Any questions on that? Again, that's just, yeah, okay. And here's one, sales price, third-party financing addendum. We see 180, right? It's our listing. We represent the seller. We represent the seller. You see where A plus B should equal C. A plus B should equal C. And when we look at this, then we go over to third-party financing and we have 180,000 for financing. How can that be? I mean, it specifically says financing is 173.7, but then we come over here and the numbers don't match. Now, this was not our writing, right? This was our listing. This is what came in, but it was accepted. Guys, we need to fix some of this, because this puts our seller in a bad position. Because what this actually says is if they can't get 180,000 in financing, the buyer can get out. In addition to that, you have two blanks there. And on third-party financing, as with anything, third-party financing specifically, we should not have blanks for the paragraph that we're working on. Everything should be in there. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. If you're on the listing side and this comes into you and it's wrong, if they're going to change anything else, then fix the contract, fix it. If they're going to change anything else. On this, I would not have accepted this with the blanks there. Absolutely would not have done that as a listing agent. Here's another one. Sales price, seller financing. Well, where in the world is the financing at? B is finance. B, sum of all financing described. Where's the financing? This one came out of the Corpus Christi office. Here's another one. A plus B equals C. Well, where is A and B at? We don't have any idea whether they're financing, whether it's cash. We have no idea. So, everybody okay there? All right, so, and when we are working with some of this, if you're the listing agent, and an agent sends some of this over to you, every one of these should have been corrected. And it takes you to correct sometimes the agent on the other side and let them know that, hey, I'm sorry you missed this. You don't have to be rude about it or sarcastic like I might be. You just let them know that they might have missed it, right? They may not have the knowledge that you guys have, and you guys have that because you do other things as well. And some of you are rocking and rolling. I've said it several times. There's some of you, when it comes to looking at the contracts, I mean, they are squeaky clean, which is absolutely fantastic. That's going to protect you. It's going to protect the broker and the brokerage. And that's so important as you're doing that. We want to make sure that we have everything documented. And that's one of our key factors when I go looking at this is, do we have everything we need to make this work the way it's supposed to? All right, any questions there? Comments? All right. So let's practice a little bit. And when it comes to practicing, we're going to see how would you handle this? And either we can get a volunteer or we can voluntold. Volunteer would be great. Voluntold, you'll see everybody going away. I'm getting a lot of interested buyers through my house. I think I'll be able to sell it in a week, which is our market, right? So what do I need you for? How do you handle that? What do you do? What would you say? Anyone?
You can maybe let them know that you'd be able to help them get the fair market value for their property.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
How do you know they're like legit buyers, like actually pre-approved? Because there can be like a lot of people calling, but not necessarily pre-approved or even know how to go from there.
Okay. So,
Or like, let's say they bring you a contract. Do you know how to read the contract? Let's say if that person has a realtor, the buyer has a realtor, and like they bring you a contract, do you know how to, I guess, basically protect yourself?
all right, awesome. And just as a footnote, Alex, if I could, when we talk about, remember there's a difference between pre-qual and pre-approved. There's a huge difference there. And pre-qual is they've talked to a lender, basically. Pre-approved means we've pretty much ran everything and they're ready to go. There is a big difference. I don't personally like using the word pre-approved because they've done the basics where the lender has said they're approved, ready to go, but there may be last minute things that'll cause an issue. And when you use the word approved, no matter what you put in front of it, people only hear what they want to hear. So pre-qual to me works. They're pre-qualified. They've talked to a lender's working on it. Here's where we're at. But that is a very good point. I love your approach because you ask questions. So if I'm the seller and you come knocking on my door, for example, and I say I'm getting a lot of interested buyers through the house, I think I'll be able to sell it within a week. So what am I going to need you for? How do you handle it? Anyone else? All right. So one of the things, and again, one of the parts of this, and I really love the way Alex handled that. You ask questions. Ask questions. What do they know? What contract are they going to use? What form are they going to use? Where are they going to take it to? We would take it to a title company. Are you taking it to an attorney? Right? Throw that information out there and ask a question. Always ask questions, and it'll help get you where you need to be. So let's take a look at this real quick on this one. Here's a response. If you don't sell it, when will you be interviewing agents for the job of selling your home? If it doesn't sell, when will you actually interview agents? And having used this script, you will get a response. Well, if it doesn't sell, like within the next couple of weeks, I'm probably going to make that decision. Or if it doesn't sell within the next month, I'll probably make that decision, right? And then follow up with them. But that's a question to help get you where you need to be. I would probably follow that up with an additional question. If it doesn't sell, when will you be interviewing an agent for the job of selling your home? If they say, well, if it doesn't sell in a month, then I'll start talking to agents. Great. What is it you're looking for in an agent? So I can find out a little bit more about it, right? And maybe uncover some needs that they have. Like, for example, for sale by owners. Some of you in here has worked with for sale by owners. So if you ask them what they're looking for in an agent, if any of you ask that, and if you have, what are you getting from them? What are you hearing? Anybody? Nope. So you guys aren't working for sale by owners? Because I know they're out there. I mean, was in Louisiana on Saturday. Went over to visit our son and his wife over there for his birthday, and right down the street, there was a for sale by owner. And as soon as we came around the corner, my wife's like, "Oh, for sale by owner!" Right, like a hunting dog. It's woo. The alarms go off. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I am not going over there knocking on somebody's door. But the other part of that, though, in all seriousness, for sale by owners are out there, and we should be, as agents, talking to them. And there's so many different techniques. If you're not doing that, you might want to just think about it. Nothing more than taking a business card and writing on there, "Please give me a call about your property." Just write on the back of your business card, stick it in the door, and run as fast as you can. But leave them a note or something, ask them to give you a call. Works. Or just knock on the door and see if anybody answers. If it's not the owner, obviously you probably don't really want to talk to them, but you could leave a message. Like if it's a housekeeper or something of that nature, you could leave a message, or you could ask them some questions and see what you find out, maybe. But anyway, just to get you started on this, when we talk about the scripts, we need to actually have something to respond with. And almost every time you do that, you're going to have questions. Why should I choose you? So this could be in a variety of settings, but let's work on the listing side if we could. Why should I select you as an agent? What are we looking for there?
We share it with our coworkers. You have the benefit of sharing it. If I'm listing it, they might have the buyer, and if they give us permission, we can advertise it, and it'll get out there where we could sell it a lot faster.
Okay. Anyone else?
Also, we can show them that we can create a marketing strategy plan for their property by making old-fashioned marketing, as putting on flyers, making open houses. Digital marketing also is available as social media. Facebook, if you're gonna make it organic or inorganic advertising on social media, you can show them all your expertise on that. That way you can explain them better, and you can show them how you're gonna position their property on the market.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Why should we choose you?
I have a list I'm going to share with you guys. I think we shared before here, like about what does the selling agent does. And I usually carry with me when I go to appointments, because people think like we actually don't do much than putting the sign on. So I'm gonna share right now in the chat.
All right, thanks. And that's something, you always want something in writing or pictures. It's called proof, a proof source. So when a seller, let's say you're sitting in a listing appointment, and depending on how you've opened it up, you have a general benefit statement, you're getting into the listing presentation. If a seller throws that out, why should I choose you? I would probably follow that up with a question, right? Answer a question with a question. what they're asking you to do is to prove your value. What do you bring to the table? And one of the ways to do that is to verbally answer it. But if you can show them why they should choose you, that works a lot better, right? Because they can hear it and see it. It's going to connect a lot better. So that's why with listing presentations, when we talk about it, you always want to talk on a listing presentation. You want to talk about the company. You want to talk about you and what you'll do to get their property sold. And then you talk about their property and them, right? And if you'll do that sequence, it'll help eliminate a lot of the objections sellers may come up with. And that's your average listing presentation: company, you, and then them. When you do that and you have something in writing that show them, and again, it could be a flyer, it could be pictures, it could be whatever you want it to be, to help them understand what it is you're going to do to get the property sold. So for example, one of the things I used to carry with me all the time was my stats. I was pretty darn proud of the fact that back then, if I took a listing, there was a real good shot I was going to get sold, because I didn't usually take listings that were overpriced and all this other good stuff. And the marketing, I used to tell sellers all the time, you control the price, I control the exposure, and I will do everything I can to get that exposure. And when I talk about getting the exposure, we talked about that before. Today you have Facebook Marketplace, you have Craigslist, outside agents, like that team in San Antonio. If I had a really good listing, I'd probably shoot them all an email. Hey, we have this listing in Mission. If you know anybody that's moving this way, please let them know about it, right? Because they're not going to look at it in MLS. But I don't email local agents, right? Agents that are in your MLS, why do I need that? Like Remax Platinum right now, that's one of their crazy things. They want to, every time they get a new listing, they want to email it out to everybody. For what? If I want that listing, I can see it in MLS. But the agents on the outside is a whole different ballgame, right? So the thing that was what would I do? Yeah, the first one is the for the buyers, right? Yes, buyer agents, yes.
Yes, sorry, but I mean, take
Yeah.
advantage of both. The second one is the one for the listing. It's actually pretty good.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, go ahead, ma'am. Cecilia?
Oh, thank you. Oh, and I was going to say, well, I do email local agents, but only when I do reverse prospecting. So if I do have a listing, I'll just grab everybody's email that has a client tied to it, and I'll send them an email saying, hey, you have clients looking at this property that meet the criteria, and I'll only email those people that have potential buyers.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And that's awesome. And the same thing with an open house. So if all of you had shown a listing that I have and I'm doing an open house on it this weekend, I would email every one of you, because you've had a buyer that was interested in this property. And now I'm doing an open house. And in that email, I would say your buyer will be protected as long as they say they're with you. Right. I use the systems we have to get the mission accomplished, but be able to convey that to the seller. Why should I choose you? And the same thing goes with the buyer's agent. Why should I choose you, right? You want to think about it. So the answer to that, real basic answer to that is, what makes you different? And that's what we're talking about. What makes you different from the other agents? What makes you stand out? What are you going to do that other agents won't do? And there's nothing wrong with trying to be funny and have fun with some of this. Like, for example, if you were to ask me, what are you going to do that other agents won't do? I would honestly, I'd probably laugh and I go, like, get your property sold. That's what you want, right? Because other agents will take the listing sometimes and it'll just sit there. And even in, answer the phone. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's an agent at the island, that's her marketing piece. That's her, I answer the phone, right? And she uses that all the time. So important. And if you're not going to answer, at least call them back and let them know that you got it, or send them a quick text. I don't like, if you call me and I don't answer, I don't like sending you a text, hey, I'll call you back in a minute, or I'll call you back in a little bit, because then I'll forget. And when you get to my age, those things happen, right? So I would rather If you call, I'd rather go back and say, oh, I missed a call, and call you back and say, hey, what's up? Right, do something of that nature, but
Oh.
that follow-up is so important. Go ahead.
Sorry. Also, I mean, if you have a really nice reply, it makes a difference because sometimes I can talk. I mean, they're like, okay. So make sure you guys, I mean, it works for me. I'm just giving an advice, right? Every time I don't answer, I reply like, I'm currently with a client. Your car is very important to me. As soon as I get a chance, like something really nice, blessings and thank you. And then obviously go and review and make sure, like you said, to call back, but don't like put the ones that say can't talk or, I don't know, it just doesn't look professional. And thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So if you wanted to step that up just a tad, do a real on your phone, just do a video and save it on your phone. Sorry, I missed your call. I'll give you a call back in just a few minutes. Do a video, right? So now they have the voice and the picture, and you took the time to do that. And you can respond with that via text real quick, just attach that video to it. So you're adding value. You're doing something other people won't do. And that's what we want to do. That'll make you stand out all by itself as you're working through it. Will you cut your commission? Other agents will. And I threw this in here this morning because we have agents that are willing to do some of that. Dulce, did you just shake your head? No, not cutting that. Nope, that's it. Right. So, and that answer, that is all you really need to do. Will you cut your commission? And over the years, I've definitely been in that hot seat. Dulce, go ahead, man.
I will not cut my commission, but I will not cut my time of service to you either. Not my customer service. I will answer my phone. I will not cut the hour that I'm going to be available to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Again, we want to bring value. We want to show them why we are worth what we are worth and why we do what we do. We're full-time agents, right? This is what we do. And for the biggest part, right? When you get a question like this, I want to find out why though, before I respond. So my problem is when you ask why, because I've said it a million times, answer a question with a question, right? So will you cut your commission? Other agents will. Really, why is that important to you? Right? And find out where they're at. And if you ask that question, you might find out that, like I had a seller that was upside down. It was upside down in his house, and that was before this crazy market, right? He was upside down in his house. I lowered the commission to $500 on each side, and he still had to bring $2,500 to the table. That's how far upside down he was, right? So sometimes when you ask why, it might help you better understand where they are at as well. However, again, you have to listen with your eyes and your ears, because the body language will tell you where they're at. With the body language, if the body language comes in there and it says, will you cut your commission? Other agents will, like they're real, what do you call that? Real, anyway, like they're arrogant, right? Type, then I would probably just say no and then see what happens. But if you say no, stay with that. Say no, shut up, don't say anything else, and let them speak. Because in sales, the saying is the first one to speak loses. So if I say no and just sit there and look at them, that's putting pressure on them for a response, and you'll get a response. If they come back, well, I've talked to such and such and he will. There's responses for that as well. So when you take a look at this, this is a way to get there, right? That's all this is. This would be hard to remember, but if you read it, review it once in a while, it'll help you. You're right. There are a lot of desperate agents out there. Now, desperate sounds like you're putting people down, but it ties in with it, right? A lot of desperate agents out there. And I'm a little concerned And can I tell you why? So you're asking them for permission to continue with the conversation. And almost every time I've used something like this, where you're asking them for permission to continue with it, you'll get a yes out of them because they want to hear what's going on. And this will help walk you through where they're at. And it comes back to negotiating, is what it comes back to. If they can't negotiate their fee with you here, how are they going to negotiate the price that we set on your home with other agents? I can and I will. All I need you to do is sign right here. And I've used that. I've absolutely used that. But you have to ask the right questions to help you get there. And that's where this takes you. This breaks it down to help you get where you need to be. Any questions on that one? So let's look at another response. Will you cut your commission? Other agents will. Take a look at this one below where it says top agent. And when I read something like this, I won't mention any names, but there's a broker that comes to mind right off the get-go, right? And I can't control what other people do, but I can control what I do. And I believe I bring value to the table, and I'm not going to accept anything less than this, unless there's a reason. I'm in the business of helping other people, and if I can help you, I will, because I do believe that if I help enough other people get what they want, I'll get what I want, which is going to keep the referrals going and other things, right? You want to make that work for you. But at the same time, I'm not doing it just to do it. Like, for example, some of you have heard me say this. If somebody asks me, what do you charge? My response, and we're not talking about setting commission or anything else, but my specific response, Mac, what do you charge? What do you charge for selling a home? 6%. And shut up. However, if it's a veteran, I would probably say 6%, but because you're a veteran, I'll charge 5%. Right? And I've done that. I've also done it with, and if my wife or I get the buyer, we'll make it 4%. I have done that. And I'll do that again today if I was working with a veteran. Or when somebody asks, what do you charge? 6%, and just shut up, or whatever your fee is. Just say it and shut, just like the no, right? Will you reduce your price, your commission? No. Here's another one. And I like this one. When we take a look at it, commissions aren't negotiable with agents that sell homes daily. And that's what when we talk about we're full-time agents, consumers want to know that we are in the business for the long time, for the long haul. Not, I'm doing this and 14 other things on the side. And if you are in a position where you're doing this and 14 other things because you have to, I get that. Just don't advertise that you're doing that, right? I mean, all of us, especially when you first get started, all of us have probably done that. Very seldom does somebody just up and quit everything and jump right into the business.
That happened in my case once, where I had a meeting with a seller and he had just gotten out of a meeting with another agent, and she disclosed she was also a teacher. So he was like, nope, I don't want to work with her. She's also a teacher. I want a full-time agent. So he ended up choosing me. But I was just like, oops.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you sharing that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So we need to find out where they're at. And there is a competition out there between agents, and we need to bring our value, and our value is not just full-time, but we have everything else that goes with it. Just like somebody had mentioned earlier, we'll share that listing with other agents in the office. Why is that important? Well, because normally we run about 25 to 28% of the market in the mission office. We run 25 to 28% of the market as far as listings go on just about any given day. And that's pretty darn good when you talk about one office out of all the others. We're pulling more than our fair share of the market. right? And that's because you guys are hustling like you do. And the other offices are doing similar. I'm sure all of you seen the post that Norma had with the, was it 2,044 closings last year? Which is why I drink now. All those contracts now. I'm sorry. That's the power. That's what the sellers want to know. They want to know that we're hustling. They want to know that we're out there looking out for their interests, but that we're going to pull out all stops to get the property sold. That's our job. And we'll make that happen. So when you get this question, again, I might ask, depending on the setting, I might ask, and I encourage you to think about that as well. Why are they asking the question? Where are they at? And if we don't know that, we cannot help them. There may be more to the story, in other words. I worked with individuals that said, will you cut your commission, or can you help us with this? And rather than saying no, what's the problem? And they were going through a divorce and the property had to be sold. So I'm here to help. I'll do what I can, but the divorce can be a stressful deal if you're dealing with both parties, which is what we were doing. We were working with both sides of it. That can add to your stress. We have a unique home. The right buyer just hasn't come through yet. If you're dealing with a for sale by owner, it's on the market, they haven't sold it yet, because that's one of the questions with for sale by owners. I've noticed your sign. I noticed you go up, knock on the door. Hi, my name's Mac. I'm with Remax Elite, and I just stopped by to see how things are going. I noticed you're doing the same thing I'm doing, that's selling real estate. I'm just wondering how it's going. And they'll, oh, it's going great. Good. Have you had any buyers come by? Yes. How come it hasn't sold yet? And then that'll take you right into this one. We have a unique home and we just haven't had the right buyer. So how would you handle that? We just haven't had the right buyer yet. How would you handle it? Anybody? All right, so I answer a question with a question. We have a unique home. The right buyer hasn't come through yet. What makes your home unique? What makes your home special? What kind of a buyer are you looking for? Answer a question with a question, throw that out there, or any kind of a negative statement. We always want to answer that with a question. This is somewhat of a negative one, right? Answer a question with a question, anything negative with a question, anything positive with a 2-word type question. But this ties in. We have a unique home. What makes it unique? I mean, those of us that's been in the business for a while, almost every seller thinks they have a special home, right? Almost every one of them. And I know with listings, I've talked about the fact that I used to use the 3x5 cards all the time, right? 3x5 cards where I would give the sellers 3x5 cards and ask them to write down what they loved about the home. And you get all kinds of responses. But one of them that stands out was the lady wrote down, this is where the kids grew up. And in her mind, that made that house unique, right? Not the features, which is probably what most of us would think about, but it's where her kids grew up, which is not what I was looking for. And we talked about that. Buyer's not going to buy the house because your kids grew up here. So tell me what makes you love this place, right? Those kind of things. And if we're dealing with a seller and they have this, we have a unique home, we have to ask questions, to be able to make that work. Anybody have any other remarks or comments on this one? Cabino, I see you unmute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would ask them if they could describe that buyer that they're looking for. And then once they give me a breakdown of what, apparently they're saying that the right buyer hasn't come through yet. So they have a particular buyer in mind. And I would ask them, how are they trying to target that buyer?
Okay. I like that because you're asking questions. But when you start asking about what type of buyer are you talking about? The right buyer? What are you talking about? Just be real careful. If they go down that fair housing violation road, that we don't acknowledge anything there, so we don't get mixed up in that, right? Because that has,
And that's exactly what I would ask that, just to see where they're at. And because when somebody says, the right buyer hasn't come through yet, that's a red flag for me.
yes,
I
absolutely.
find out what they're looking for.
That's good before you start dealing with anything else, because if there is an issue there, we don't want to get wrapped up in that. Gavino, I appreciate that. That's good. Anyone else? All right, so here's what, if you can see that. Again, we're asking, can I tell you why, right? You're right. You do have a unique home, and I'll be honest with you, that's one of the things I have a problem with, because as a listing agent, and because of previous experiences, I don't walk into somebody's house and tell them it's pretty, it's clean, it looks nice. I don't do that. I don't do that. And working with new agents, although I have not done this over the last few years, but working with new agents in the past, you walk into somebody's house and the agent goes, wow, this is beautiful. You just added value to that property. Now they think you're seeing it just like they see it. And that's going to make price adjustments and everything else hard to work with. So I walk in, what do they call that? A poker face, right? I don't care what they have. It's a property. It's not a big deal. It's not nothing to get excited about. So you do have a unique home. It is unique, right? One, the $700,000 house I listed in San Benito was unique. Every bedroom had its own bathroom, and every bathroom was different. Every one of them was different. The sinks, everything was different in every one of them. So that was pretty unique. But at this price, we'll probably never get the right buyer. Can I tell you why? And this explanation is really, really good, because you as a buyer's agent know that when you put that criteria in for that buyer into MLS, sometimes nothing pops up. Nothing's there. And once again, as a reminder, the best way to work with a buyer, the very best way to work with a buyer, especially at the beginning, is to let them see your screen as you're plugging in their criteria. So you go in to do a search. With Navica, I used to do it where on the bottom right-hand side, it says show criteria, and you click on it, it would open up and they'll show you a list of things you plugged in. With Matrix, which we use in McAllen and Corpus Christi, with Matrix, it's on the bottom left-hand side, the numbers will dwindle down. So when you click on active, it'll tell you how many active listings there are. All right, so Mr. and Ms. Buyer, what's one of the first things you want me to plug in here as far as your criteria goes? Subdivision. Okay, great. Let's plug that in. Bedrooms and baths. Great. And you'll watch those numbers go down. And then you can add whatever amenities they want, everything. Add everything in there that they want on the buyer side and watch it go down to 0. Now, what do you want me to take out? Right? So this is everything you've wanted in a house. And the number on the left-hand side shows there's nothing available. So out of the things you said you wanted, what do you want me to eliminate? What do you think we should take off of this? And they'll give you 1 or 2 items. You take that off and you can see whether any properties pop back up. And you can use that system. And again, even on Navica, you have to, like I said, you have to click on it, but it'll show that so that you can go in and take a look at what criteria you have. And that's where I learned to do that, was working with Navica and that showing the criteria. I learned that the buyers have a huge laundry list of things they would like to have. But if I don't do this, if you don't do what I'm talking about with a buyer, what will happen is you'll show them property and they'll come back and go, well, maybe there's something we missed. Maybe there's a property you didn't show us. Maybe there's, right? So if you're doing this with them, they get to see that that's all there is there. Now, is there other properties that might be on the market? Sure. Builders, for sale by owners, and your buyer rep agreement says that you're going to show those to them if they're available, right? If there's a buyer, if you have a buyer rep agreement, it states that you're going to actually make all properties available for sale by owners, builders, whatever's out there. So in that case, you might have to look other places like Zillow. Zillow has for sale by owners on it. You might have to look at Craigslist. but you've done everything you can. You might have to drive the area. That's what we used to do. Drive that area that they want to live in, see if there's anything out there, right? The point is, all of this, when you talk about this response to a seller, it's real. It's absolutely real. And you have ways of showing them that. I would not put it past me, for example, and I'll share with you, if I'm talking to a seller and they don't believe this, opening up the phone and do a search real quick. Let them see that there's the same thing that I just told you that we do with a buyer. Do that with a seller. Let them see that there's not anything else out there like that. Does that make sense? All right. Let me get this. So in the chat, I've shared this in the past. And it's just something I go back to once in a while myself, just because of what we do. It's 40 real estate objection handlers or 40 real estate objections handled. And it actually comes from the Mike Ferry training. But the things that we covered this morning on the script portion of this comes from that. Every one of those are in there. And they'll have, like some of those did at the beginning that I showed where it said, here's top agent's response. They have that. Here's a typical agent and here's a top agent, because the top agent's going to deliver with more confidence. So the response might be a little different than a typical agent would use, right? And you get that experience, you get that confidence with the experience usually. And when you become confident in what you're saying because you've seen it work, then you're able to work through it a little better. Anyway, anybody have any questions about anything we've covered?